All right. This is another short and precise video on alkanols, still dealing with alkanols. Now, in our previous video, we tried to bring out the types of alkanols which you should know, how to identify the primary, the secondary, and of course the tertiary alkanols. But in this particular short video, we want to quickly look at the oxidation of alkanols, as it were. Now, how are the different alkanols oxidized? Since we have identified the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary, but how are they oxidized? Now, can they be oxidized? First off, what's oxidation, as it were? And you must get to know that oxidation is in terms of oxygen transfer, is the addition of oxygen, or I can say is the removal of hydrogen, that is in terms of hydrogen transfer, or I can say is the loss of electrons, so to say. Now, can alkanols be oxidized? And if they can be oxidized, one thing that you must put at the back of your mind is, what are the products that are formed from the oxidation of the different alkanols? Now, we begin to check it out with the primary alkanols. If they are oxidized, what will it give me? Now, remember that we said that primary alkanols are represented like this. So we have the OH, we have the H, and we have H, and we have the arrow. Specifically, of course, you should know in our previous video that this arrow here represent alkyl group, and of course, if the alkanol is having two hydrogen attached to the carbon that bears the hydroxyl group, that means it's a primary alkanol. We have done that in our previous videos. Now, or you can simply say that if the alkanol is having one alkyl attached to the carbon that carries the word OH. Now, if this is a primary alkanols can be oxidized if a mild oxidizing agent is used. First, it will give an aldehyde. Now, aldehyde is represented thus. That means for me to oxidize, this hydrogen and this hydrogen is removed. Remember we said oxidation is the removal of hydrogen but the addition of oxygen. So if, since it's mild oxidation, it's going to first of all oxidize it partially to an aldehyde, removing this hydrogen and this hydrogen here. I'll have ROCH. Then remember that I'm having free electrons here. It can form another double bond. So of course, for carbon to bond with oxygen, there's a double bond. So double bond O. Now this is an aldehyde, which can also be represented like ROCHO. So this is primary alkanol. If it gets oxidized by mild oxidizing agent, it's going to form what? It's going to form an aldehyde. Now, this aldehyde, or you can simply say an alkanal, so to say. Now, if it's complete oxidation, that means using a very strong oxidizing agent, we are going to get a carboxylic acid or an alkanoic acid. So if this oxidizes, of course I'm adding an oxygen, it becomes what? It becomes C double bond O. Then of course I'm having what? The OH. Now this is a carboxylic acid, which is also represented as CrCOOH. So it forms a carboxylic what? Acid. Now, what is the breakdown of this oxidation? What we have found out here is that if I partially oxidize, or if I use a mild oxidizing agent, I will have an aldehyde. When the primary alkanol is oxidized, get an aldehyde. But if it's complete oxidation using a strong oxidizing agent, I will get what? A carboxylic acid. Now, or I can use it an oxidizing agent that tends to oxidize the primary alkanol in a step like way. For instance, I can get to use K2CR2O7. Yes, it's a good oxidizing agent. Now I can oxidize this to this, then from this to this. Now let's take a quick instance for an example. What are the products that are being formed? For example, if I oxidize a particular primary alkanol. Now let me take an instance. For instance, I have something like this. I have CH3, I have C, we have H, and I have C, I have H, I have H, and I have OH. Now if you look at this alkanol very well properly, you'll notice that yes, this is a primary alkanol. Why? How is it a primary alkanol? Obviously, I have what? Two hydrogen attached to the carbon that carries the OH, or I have what? One alkyl attached. So if I partially oxidize using a mild oxidizing agent. Of course, this is a primary alkanol. What's the name? 1, 2, 3. This is prop. So I will say this is prop 1 all. I can simply say propanol. Now, if this is propanol as it were, and it's a primary alkanol, if I oxidize, I'm going to get what? Propanol, which is an aldehyde, removing the hydrogen here. So it becomes what? CH3, and obviously I can get to write this as CH2, then now we have CHO. So this is propanol, which is an aldehyde. Then if I completely oxidize this alkanol, if I completely oxidize it, I'm going to be having CH3 CH2 COOH. That means I'm going to be having a propanoic what? Acid. Now look at it. So look at the breakdown of it. So if I oxidize primary alkanol partially, it forms an aldehyde. Completely, it forms what? A carboxylic acid. Now that is for primary alkanols. Well, what about secondary alkanols? If I get to oxidize it, what will it form? What about tertiary alkanols? We quickly look at that instantly. Now if I have a secondary alkanol, for instance, what will it give to me if I get to oxidize it? Now very fast. Now obviously, if you get to watch our previous video, if you have not watched those videos, just go back and check it out. You will notice that, of course, if I want to identify a secondary alkanols, this is a secondary alkanol. Remember, the alkyl group might be the same or might be different, but it doesn't really matter. Now this is secondary alkanol. How? It has one hydrogen attached to the carbon that bears the hydroxyl group, so it's a secondary alkanols. Now secondary alkanols can only be oxidized once. So removing H from here, what will I get? I'm going to have arrow. We have what? C double bond O, and I'm having arrow, which is also represented as arrow CO arrow. Now this compound here obviously is a ketone, or you can simply say an alkanone or a ketone. Now because it has the carboxylic group, the CO group. Now so if I oxidize a secondary alkanol, it will form an alkanone or a ketone. Now this oxidation can only occur in a one step method, because I can only oxidize it once. So unlike the primary that get to oxidize to form the alkanal, which is the aldehyde, then complete oxidation will now forms what? Alkanoic acid. Now very quickly, without wasting much time, now if we want to take an instance, let me take an instance. For example, I'm having OH, I'm having CH3. For instance, I'm having CH3. For instance, maybe I have something like this, then of course I have H. Now this is a secondary alkanol, and what's the name of this alkanol? For instance, this is 1, 2, 3. So this is propan2 all, or I can say prop2 all, or I can say 2 propanol, or I can say 2 propanol. So if I oxidize this, what will it give to me? Of course, removing the hydrogen from here and this other end, I will have what? CH3. Then we now have CO. Then we have what? CH3. You can see this is a ketone. So I can say this compound, of course, what's the name of this compound? This compound is what? Propan 2-one, or I can say what? I can say 2-propanone, as the case may be. So you can see now this is secondary alkanols, oxidation of secondary alkanols. Now what about tertiary alkanols? When tertiary alkanols are oxidized, what will it give to me? Now I'm trying my best possible to make sure that the video is not too long, it's just short and straight to the point. Now if it's tertiary alkanone, what will I get if I can oxidize tertiary alkanol? Now remember the mechanism we used just now. Now look at tertiary alkanols. Now if I have OH, I have arrow, I have arrow, I have arrow. Now, this is alkyl, alkyl, alkyl. You can notice something that for the tertiary alkanol, there is no free hydrogen attached to this particular carbon. Therefore, tertiary alkanols cannot be oxidized. Because why? There is no free hydrogen attached to the carbon that bears the word OH. So tertiary alkanols cannot be oxidized, unlike the rest. So you have gotten it. How are primary alkanols oxidized? What will it give to me? Secondary, what will it give? And of course, tertiary cannot be oxidized because it does not have a free hydrogen attached to the carbon that carries the what? The OH. Now, this is just a quick and simple video for you to analyze or how to get the products that are formed from the oxidation of primary, secondary, and tertiary. And of course, in our previous videos, we have been able to identify what are primary alkanols, what are secondary alkanols, what are tertiary alkanols, and the different types of alkanols, so to say. Now, we are still looking at some basic areas under the organic chemistry for those persons that are preparing for UTME exam or maybe SSC examination, and those persons that are going for foundational programs. So you need to understand these particular things. Now, all you have to do is also subscribe to my channel, Musjaro, of course, and to get more of these videos. And of course, you get to follow me on TikTok. My name is also Musjaro. So thank you very much for watching.